Good evening. It's 6 o'clock, and welcome to the December 19th regular session of Findlay City Council. We will start this evening's meeting with roll call, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Mr. Ballman?
Here.
Ms. Frischie?
Here.
Mr. Greeno?
Present.
Mr. Hellman?
Here.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Here.
Mr. Slough?
Here.
Ms. Warnicki?
Here.
And Mr. Wobser?
Mr. Wobser contacted me prior to tonight's meeting, letting me know that he was going to be unable to attend. I will entertain a motion to excuse Mr. Russell, second Mr. Greeno. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor of excusing Mr. Wobser say aye. Any opposed, nay. He is excused. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will entertain a motion to approve the previous public hearing minutes and city council minutes. Mr. Slough?
I would move to have the minutes to approved as circulated.
Second, Mr. Niemeyer. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Any opposed, nay. They are approved. Mr. Russell, do we have any add-ons, replacements, or removals from tonight's agenda?
Yes, sir. Two add-ons, Appropriations Committee agenda and committee report. Add that to the committee reports section concerning the downtown recreation area environmental results, and also an Appropriations Committee agenda and committee report concerning the raise the bar funding, and that is also for committee reports section. And a replacement for ordinance 2023-115 as amended, some wording changes in section 1, specifically stating what the new chapter is going to be versus the way it was sent out, not germane to the actual zoning code, and also a request that we move the zoning code ordinance 2023-115 up on the agenda after written communications and before the reports of municipal officers and departments. The reason for that is that Matt Cordonier is here from Hancock Regional Planning Commission, or Hancock Regional Planning, excuse me, to answer questions for that amendment, but he has an engagement that he would like to be at out of town and would like to get on the road as soon as possible. And so if it would be council's pleasure to help Matt out and move that in the agenda, that would be appreciated. And that's all in the form of a motion.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the agenda as described say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is approved. We have no proclamations, no recognition or retirement resolutions. We do have one petition.
The status of the Township Road 230, County Road 212, known as Hat Trick, also known as Buchanan, and also known as the Sheets annexation. We received the documents back from the county's hearing, and now they're in the city clerk's office for the required 60 days.
Questions or comments? This matter will be on hold in the city clerk's office until February 11th, 2024. We have 4 oral communications this evening. We will start as in the order that they were submitted. First is Robin Welly, and she would like to speak to about West Park moratorium on building.
Hello, I'm Robin Welly, President of West. Can you hear me?
Is it on?
Yeah, the light's on. President of West Park Block Watch Committee. We're past the point where words spoken only to create the illusion of something's going to be done without ever a viable outcome. The city is pursuing interim and long-term solutions to our problem. This is only as good as the city's intention to tackle existing problems and make capital improvements. For West Park, 65 years of building infrastructure and still major thoroughfares without the luxury of municipal sanitary sewers is unacceptable. This matter needs to be addressed immediately. Our mission is the hope for change for the better. We're looking for a plan of action. We have repeatedly expressed our needs of land preservation, to maintain our natural drainage. Our neighborhood has suffered major impact with the roundabout and all the new builds. It only infringes on our green space, but it's also increasing our needs for other means of drainage. We know storm sewers are definitely years away, if ever, in our neighborhood. Minimizing the existing flooding is one of our main goals. Our city needs to realize our expectations for this environmental need. The length of time this moratorium is in effect depends solely on whether the city uses their time wisely to enact the current residents of West Park warrants, what West Park residents warrants and deserve. If the city is truly seeking a solution, adding a new subdivision is only exacerbating the problems to current residents. This moratorium does not affect or include rebuild, a remodel, a garage, or a shed. This moratorium is only on new builds within the confines of West Park. The new builds includes the installation of new sanitary and/or storm sewers. This moratorium should last until all current residents have the opportunity to tap into a municipal sewer. This moratorium is in effect until further consideration warrants lifting the suspensions until the issues that brought us to this point have been resolved. This moratorium cannot expire without notification to every household in West Park. An acceptable 180 days is a proper notification time. We think if the city can afford to spend $1.5 million just on plans on City Park number 51, it can afford to finish putting sanitary sewers in West Park. We think if the city is now going to provide sanitary sewers to outside of the city limits, it can afford to finish putting sewers in West Park. We think if the city can provide free sewage to a subdivision, it can finish putting sanitary sewers in West Park. We think raw sewage in catch basins in an established neighborhood should be a priority on city spending versus the luxury of an unnecessary park. We have the word of a couple councilmen. They're discussing proposing legislature. We can only hope they take our needs seriously, and this moratorium is on the agenda for January 2024 council meeting. This problem should be of foremost concern to each and every one of us. Thank you for your time.
Questions for Ms. Frischie?
Who are the council members that are looking at legislation? And I guess my question would be, should we be referring this to committee to make sure if we're considering a moratorium that it is well thought out?
I'm sorry, who's that question directed to?
Well, I would think one of my fellow council people would speak up and tell me that they, I guess, are having conversation. But if not, Robin, if you could just tell me, that would be great.
Well, I'll speak. I've talked with Robin about it. I have not said anything about legislation, but I've talked to her about some questions that she had and found out some information for her. So I'm one of them, Holly. But I have not said anything about any legislation.
I would be
Mr.
the
Baumann?
second. And again, I did not commit to any legislation. I said that it would be considered.
No one has committed. That is why I'm asking what my next step is. Mr. Baumann has not helped us. I went over his head. I contacted Randy. Since he was councilman at large, didn't know if that was the next step. Maybe I'm talking to the wrong people. Maybe nobody understands. Maybe nobody understands, evidently. Nobody cares. Maybe I should be talking to the EPA. Maybe I shouldn't even be standing here. Maybe I should be just looking for help for another solution. Our block watch is done. We're having a solution.
Ms. Frischie?
Jeremy, so since we're going to be doing our capital discussions before we know it, do you even have an idea of how many feet or miles of sewer and sanitary we don't have out there? How extreme or not extreme that number is?
I couldn't tell you, the numbers of having or not having. Speaking on the sanitary side, when we went to the block watch, A lot of this information was brought, Newell Street, I think that's how you pronounce. We have a design for it. I can't tell you why it was never put in place years ago at that time. So we have a design for that, but we're investigating, trying to find all the locations within that area that does not have a public sanitary in front of them that has a septic system. I know there's a couple on Lima Avenue that are needing addressed, so we know, okay, we need to pick up that. But what I don't want to do is, okay, we send out this project and then, we missed a couple over here, we missed a couple over here. I want to make sure that when we're sending out, it's a complete package, because, a lot of these could be in a failing state where the gray water that is going out, it may not be fully treated, but we want to make sure that we don't impose any environmental. So we're in investigation phase of that, figuring out where all these are, looking at tap permits, verifying what's going through here. I know you provided a couple of those addresses. We're looking at those addresses, verifying Cameron through there. But, as what you're saying with the Capitol, you will be seeing a project on there for a sanitary system of some sort. I can't tell you.
Not completing the entire area.
I can't tell you how big it is, how much it is. That's what we're trying to figure out first, is instead of me coming up and saying, hey, I only need 200 foot, I might need, 1,000 foot. That's what we need to figure out, how we can run it, where we can run it, grades that we got to work with. There's a lot of information we need to gather before we can just start saying, hey, we're running a sanitary over there.
Ms. Fishy?
I would make a request that we send this to Water and Sewer and get the show on the road and get a game plan going and find out what's going on. And I guess if we are not there yet, maybe their moratorium request, if we can get the right verbiage, would be doable and warranted. So I would ask that get referred to Water and Sewer for the first of the year.
Do I hear a second? Mr. Hellman?
I'll second it.
Okay. I tell you right now, the moratorium won't be discussed at a Water and Sewer Committee meeting. That's a
And
water.
why would you say that?
Because the moratorium would be on it would be planning and zoning, not water and sewer. Ms. Frishy?
So I would just be saying that it's going to Water and Sewer so we know our infrastructure, we can look at our capital budget and planning. If we can't get there, then I would say we refer it to planning and zoning, but I think the first step is Water and Sewer.
Okay. The chair of Water and Sewer is who? Grant? You'll put that on the January meeting's agenda? Thank you. Yeah, once that's scheduled, or the next meeting that's scheduled, I shouldn't say January.
Mr. President.
Mr. Hellman?
Is this, I guess this is directed towards Jeremy, if we go down this path, is this something that the Water and Sewer Committee can handle on their own with some input from your department, or do we need to bring in an outside consultant? I mean, I've heard about this for I don't know how many years. I'm surprised that we're still kind of horsing around with it without an answer, whether it's yes, no, can't do it, whatever.
We should be able to, at this point, we should be able to handle in-house of what we're seeing right now.
All right.
Like I said, the biggest thing is we're getting towards the extreme upstream of our sanitary. So,
Okay.
The farther you go, the more grade you're coming up.
Yep.
We may not have enough fall, and we got to figure out a new location or new route to go with that. So at this point, we can handle it in-house. The design stuff, we might have to do surveying outside, but I don't know how much that surveying is, where that surveying is per se. But that's what we're looking into and actively, trying to get a design going on it.
Good, but with your staff, we're able to proceed
Correct.
till we run into a glitch.
Yeah,
If
I
we
feel
need help, we
comfortable
can
with
get it.
our workload of my assistant and stuff and myself that
Very
we can
good.
get this. If not, we'll have to reach out to a design consultant to help us out to keep
Thank
moving
you.
this forward.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor Murin?
Just two quick items I want to mention because I know it's been said. We have gone out and checked catch basins and have not been able to find anywhere where there is raw sewage. So I don't want there to be a perception that we're allowing a health risk to be unaddressed. Additionally, I just want to point out to the group, with a situation like this, we've had it in other areas neighborhoods where they were on septic systems. And then obviously once we put in the sewers, then they have a time frame that they have to connect, and that was not necessarily well received by all of the properties. So there is the level of also needing to communicate with those individual property owners. So it is a process. We're working on it. And as we have also provided to Ms. Welly, how we're addressing all of the additional concerns that have been brought up. And we have been working with a number of properties that, you know, they had sewer or water pressure issues, and it wasn't an issue that we could identify on our end. So we are working through it. There are a variety of layers to it, but I just do want you to know that we're not ignoring the requests.
Thank you.
Ms. Frishy?
So Mayor, did you just confirm that the project that we were doing a couple years ago, those folks did not all tie in? You just said there's folks that had septic and...
No, that was a neighborhood in the community that were forced to connect in. Here, because a sewer line is not available, they obviously don't have to connect in, so they're on their septics. If we move forward with putting in a sewer line, then they are going to be forced to connect. And I think we also need to make sure that we are communicating with those property owners, because I don't know for a fact that they are the ones requesting a sewer line be put in for their property. So I'm just saying that that's something we've dealt with in the past, and we'll have to talk to them about that.
Ms. Frishy?
So did we get the answers on the previous project in West Park where we went ahead and extended the sewer to get rid of those septics and people were supposed to tap? I've been waiting on that answer for a while. So that's why I came.
I'm not talking about West Park. I'm talking about Blue Bonnet.
Okay, but I'm asking you about West Park.
I
So-
don't know
So
specifically.
you guys still haven't figured that out? Thanks.
Robin, you had to comment?
Yes, I do want to comment. There is raw sewage. It comes right out of Chris Nagy's building right there on the corner of Newell and Lima Avenue. He came to our block watch to address it. Jeremy was there. Rob was there. We had the parks guy there, so it was sort of like a thing. Chris like, I can't. Robin, take care of it. And it's like, it is sewage there. I was going to bring it tonight. You know, it's not.
Don't bring sewage to
Okay,
council.
this. You know, we took a sample ourselves. All you have to do is get the water out of there. It's sewage. Chris Nagy has asked to be tapped into to have the lines finished. He would like to. His business on the other side is done. From Newell Street clear on out Lima Avenue, there's no sanitary sewers. There's a house sitting right there at 1601 Lima Avenue that's for sale. They've already started digging in the house or in the front yard because they're going to be screwed. There's flags in the backyard. An old man, 89 years old, Mr. Scanlon, who lives down on Carlin Avenue, I hope his wife outlives him or the children take that house. If not, we're going to have the very first house with the pond right beside the county garage with the same situation because he has a septic tank there. This stuff is leaking. No one's doing anything about it. And if you think you're going to look down in the sewer and just see feces laying there or toilet paper laying there, no, it flows. The reason we're going to address Oil Creek is because right there is a topographical layout there, and from that part on, that water there flows up to Oil Ditch, up to the roundabout and to Oil Ditch, just like when the airplanes are parked there. That water runs to Oil Ditch. When you go farther south, that goes on out to Eagle Creek. That's why our neighborhood has said, yes, we will petition to clean Oil Ditch because we know there's raw sewage going into Oil Ditch. So if anyone tells me that there's not there, you're wrong. You're all wrong.
Thank you.
And you all need to go back to septic tank school. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I think your message has been heard loud and clear. Ms. Frishy?
I think we have to clarify that Mr. Nagy's septic is not leaking into that sewer. That sewage is coming downwind. So let's, and that property in that area was already documented several years ago when I chaired water and sewer when we started that project that I'm trying to get that information on. But I don't think it's a leaking septic tank that's getting into.
Chris would like it taken off of
All right.
his property. It's
Thank
right
you. Thank you.
property.
All right, our next communication this evening is from Haiti Sadler. Haiti, and she would like to speak about the downtown park and illegal immigrants.
Thank you for hearing me this evening, Council. I am Haiti Sadler. I'm a very, very concerned citizen for the city of Findlay. In regards to the $40 million iconic Legacy Park, on June 28th, in a letter to the City Council, Mayor Mirren said she recognizes the challenges of this project, particularly among the fellow citizens that questioned the necessity and expense of this park. On December 4th, she forwards the same email and says these are very important, critical, and time-sensitive decisions that need to be made. Those notes are actually part of the council notes. I want to ask, are we really trying to declare an emergency on this downtown park? What's the big hurry when the residents in Findlay continue to question the ridiculous expense of this park while other parks in our city need more investment? I am personally of the mind that, yes, this needs to go to a public vote before spending an exorbitant amount of taxpayer dollars. I'd like to say that I speak on behalf of thousands of residents in Findlay when I say, yes, we want to see the downtown green space beautified, but not at that expense. And before we begin talking about grant funds that the mayor refers to as a pot of money, I'd like to remind council that we do not live at the end of the rainbow, and these are in fact taxpayer dollars. Regarding illegal immigrants, November 9th, Mayor Murin wrote an op-ed in the Courier saying she wanted to not let rumors create a narrative around these legal individuals. Then later in the article states, in the event police department is unable to get the proper documentation, they will work on resolving it by helping them get papers. At the budget hearing this past week, Captain Matthias said while some of the Haitian population have permits, he doesn't understand why the Mexican immigrants do not. I don't believe he referred to them as immigrants. He just said the Mexican population do not, which that would classify them as illegal. So my question is the misinformation coming from the administration saying they are legal, or the police department saying some don't have papers, because that's what makes them illegal? Number two, is the city aware that these illegal immigrants are being funded? Is the city aware that these illegal immigrants are being funded through nonprofit organizations or sending money to banks and other types of bosses called coyotes? I personally have that experience with a family who asked me to take them to send money in the amount of $1,900 a month that they were sending to Mexico. I got the pictures and the banks of everywhere the money is going to. So that leads me to my last question. Is Findlay normalizing human trafficking? Is that what we're talking about when we're having illegal immigrants come here, send money somewhere else, and we're using their labor while they're sending money out and not using it in the community in which we're building, but we're taking the nonprofit funds to help them, and we're probably going to house them, which I wanted to ask, is the Habitat for Humanity build that they're trying to do in West Park, is that part of the plan to house the illegal immigrants? So.
Is that it? Any questions from Ms. Sadler? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our third is from Dan Kelly. And Dan, first, just give us your address for the record.
Yes.
And he'd like to speak for the travel from the honorary Mayor Muir.
Yes, my address, I live in Findlay, and I live at 1010 Hillary Lane, Apartment G in Findlay off on County Road 99. That's going about to get very busy, by the way, with the construction. And I just have a couple of questions for the Honorable Mayor. I read with interest about the visits to Washington, D.C. and to Columbus. And what I was going to ask the Honorable Mayor is if she would, as a matter of transparency, that the local website indicates, would she be able to provide an itinerary of the meetings, an agenda of the meetings?
First off,
Go ahead, sir.
Let me make a comment here real quick. First off, this is a city council meeting. Any questions that you have to be directed to city council. It's not an administrative meeting.
Okay.
So questions and comments directly to the administration is not part of our meeting. If you have a question for council, I'll allow it, but a direct question, I think that's just something you just need to contact her at her office. Unless the mayor would like to comment this evening, but that's not what we're here for tonight.
Okay, all righty. Well,
Okay.
that's my interest.
All right.
About the local interest about the two meetings and the travel.
Just
and
making sure you know what we're here for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. So I need to contact the mayor.
And I'm sure she'll answer any and all questions that you ask.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
All righty.
Mr. Kelly, what are you getting? I mean, you came to council tonight. You wanted to know her itinerary for going to Washington, D.C.
Correct.
just out of curiosity, or is there something you're looking for?
Well, as a citizen of the community, and
Okay.
whether it's taxpayer funded, and
So you want to know how it was paid for?
Correct.
And then what was
Thank
your
you, Mr.
second-
Kelly.
What was your second question, sir?
and the approval, who actually makes the
approves it?
decision? Yes, and I'm
Okay.
assuming it's the city.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
All right,
All
so
right.
I'll make sure to follow up on that since we're not allowing that discussion.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
our fourth,
No, Mr. President, I
Oh,
would like
go
to,
ahead.
I can very quickly, for the trip to Washington DC, I paid out of my personal pocket to attend the event. And the Ohio Mayor's Alliance Board, that travel and dues are part of my budget annually.
Okay, all right.
thank you.
I'll be in contact. Thank you very much.
Our,
Appreciate your
our
time.
fourth person this evening's Renee LaGuire. And she would like to speak about the downtown park and zoning.
All right, y'all. Renee LaGuire. I live at 148 Larkin Street in Findlay, Ohio. You all were elected as Republicans. However, most of you vote to spend tax money like Democrats. May I remind you that grant money is taxpayer money. So I admonish you tonight to vote against any appropriations for the design and plans of a $40 million park. In the last few weeks, I have talked to many citizens, and not one person is in favor of a $40 million park. The downtown park, many people said, should be turned into a green space. They said that we have plenty of parks in Findlay and Hancock County that are not being taken care of properly, and so why not take care of the parks that we already have? The citizens of Findlay are becoming just a little bit agitated with the way they're not being heard. And my second point is I want to request that all zoning ordinances go before the citizens of Findlay so that the citizens can vote on these zoning ordinances. As you are, planning to put new rules on the books, I think that the citizens of Findlay should have a voice. And I don't think that most of you are representing your constituents. So, thank you.
Any questions for Ms. LaGuire? Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
That concludes our oral communications. Next will be written communications.
An email from Zach Thomas regarding Findlay Downtown Recreational Area.
Comments? Hearing next.
A letter from Buckeye Broadband Vice President Business and Legal Affairs Matthew Berardo. I'm not sure how you say that. Rate changes effective January 1st, 2024.
Questions? Okay.
Email from Carrie Holman regarding water treatment facility.
Questions?
And an email from Zach Thomas regarding support for immigration task force.
Questions? Next will be, per our agenda change, we're going to insert the zoning ordinance. I got to think what number it is, I'm sorry. 2023-115 as amended. The clerk will read the ordinance.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. If we have, first we need to untable this. Mr. Russell.
Move that ordinance 2023-115 be lifted from the table.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, there's no discussion. All those in favor of untabling this ordinance say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The ordinance is untabled. It's had all three readings, per our clerk. Mr. Russell's saying it didn't. I'm saying two.
I think it'll only had two.
0, I've got 3, and I got 2.
They are correct. It's only had 2.
All right. There has been 2 readings. So this will be the third reading.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-115 as amended. An ordinance repealing the current zoning code, Chapter 1100 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, and in its place enacting new Chapter 1100 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, to be known as the City of Findlay zoning ordinance, adopting, approving, and incorporating the current zoning code, along with the entire text of new Chapter 1100 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, as if fully rewritten herein.
Mr. Slough.
I would move for adoption of the ordinance.
Second, Mr. Russell. Discussion? Mr. Hellman.
Since Mr. Cordania has spent, is that better? Sorry about that. Has spent a better part of an hour here. Would you like to comment on anything in this amendment that we're looking at?
Good evening. We've been working on this since really mid-2022. We've had seven public hearings and working meetings in regards to this. There's been 4 articles in the Courier. I presented the information to the Findlay Rental Association. So there's really no surprises in this document. Really just looking to update the document. Zoning codes are always changing, trying to stay up with the times. I'll just give you a quick bullet point of the significant changes. I view there's 5 significant changes. Increased the requirements for public notices to Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, and City Council in terms of rezoning for City Council. Planning Commission will be notifying properties within 500 feet. That's increased from 250 feet. So that will more than double the number of people notified when an item's going to City Planning Commission. In addition, when there's a rezoning, there will be a second sign placed at the property that notifies local residents that it will be at City Council. And if you have questions about the rezoning, you can still provide public input to City Council. In addition, we created 3 new districts: the A1 Agricultural District, I3 Light Industrial District, and we brought back the PUD, which is Planned Unit Development. We removed 2 districts, PMUD and PRD. Those were districts that were never utilized. Updated the sign code to make it much more difficult to install billboards or convert them to digital. We removed pylon signs. Think of the Menard sign for commercial. So now you have to install a ground-mounted sign that's no taller than 8 feet tall. And we made some changes to the conditional use criteria. We installed the recommendation by the Ohio Supreme Court, the 7 criteria for reviewing conditional uses. So that's a large overview. There's an hour or 2-hour meeting in which I went over every change, which is available on YouTube.
Thanks, Matt.
Ms. Frischie.
I don't have any questions for you. You're okay. So I serve on planning and zoning. I've been through these meetings. My opinion would be we haven't had much discussion. We had one meeting that had some discussion, but I don't think it really got any resolution. So I was not able to attend the committee of a whole meeting where they took this to committee, so they had a full understanding. I watched the video, and it was clear that when the council piped up with some questions during that meeting, Grant said to the committee of a whole, this was info to share, but not to make any suggestions or tweaks. If we do that, then we are at risk of not getting this passed, and has to be. And he goes on, he says, this has to be one of the last meetings of November. It has to be done if we want to get this process moving forward. So there clearly is a press of importance to get this done that's really concerning to me. And And at the end of the day, council needs to understand everything being added and removed to this zoning code, and so does the public. Some of the things that are important to me that I don't necessarily agree with was the industrial 2 zone, because that's near my ward, and they are already at Ward 1, kind of comes towards Tall Timbers direction. So they have already experienced some of the wind turbines and things like that, and the industrial things going on over there that have impacted some people's peace. The signage situation in our community of wanting to remove signage. I think businesses need and deserve to have their signage, and just because we want to set a sunset clause that is going to allow if somebody's pylon sign or large sign were to get damaged, we say, oh, too bad, you can't put it back up. Now you got to start complying to the low profile or no sign. For me, I still like to see the McDonald's golden arches to get directions to give people where to go. So I think signage is important. I think when we talk about signage on our small businesses in the community that we really want to support, when we're telling them that they can't park their trailer on a business property with permission unless their trailer is titled to that property, I think that's hogwash. So I think we're putting restrictions on our small business that is completely inappropriate. We talk about the parking, and we support our trucking industry as being a main industry in our community, and we're putting some regulations there that is making it harder for folks who come in and park their RV on a commercial.
That's already in the code.
But setbacks, and we're having all these additional rules
I know,
of how
I
far
just-
they can be from the road and how close they have to be to a building. That's something else. I feel like we have also added additional things in there that haven't been discussed. For instance, I've recently read about electric car charging stations. I don't remember ever talking about that. So these things are a lot of things, and you know, I talk about this on social media, and you know there's a lot of talk about it. People don't speak up because they don't feel that they're going to be heard. So that's one thing. But in the past, Matt, the zoning code is not Hancock Regional Planning's baby. It is the city of Findlay, and typically, if we want to make a change to our zoning code, it's one item at a time. For instance, farm animals was the big thing, and we're going to retouch on that, I guess, for 24. But it wasn't your responsibility or privilege to be able to just, we're going to once over the entire thing. Nobody on that committee, or even that committee of a whole for council, read that entire document and understood what was going on. I still keep reviewing it and finding new things that I haven't seen or heard about. So for that reason, council should not be passing this zoning code change. I actually don't think it's a bad idea that citizen Renee LaGuire said that maybe it should be put on a ballot for the citizens to understand, because these are big changes that folks don't always realize how it's going to impact them until later. And I just don't think it's there. And I think that there was valid question that was dismissed by Grant at that committee meeting. So today, if this goes to a vote, I will vote no. And I hope some other council members do as well.
Mr. Russell.
Point of clarification, a committee of the whole meeting is informational sharing. You can't make decisions at it, and that's what I stated. I compliment Matt and his team for the work that they put into this zoning rewrite. I believe this is, since 2013, this is the third major rewrite of the zoning code that I've been a part of. And this one also involved extraordinary effort to make the code, the actual physical document that the code is in, manageable so that it could be easier maintained. And it was done at a great individual effort on behalf of Hancock Regional Planning and the attorneys that they worked with on this code, and I appreciate that. And in terms of public input, you know, it was a direct result of the West McPherson apartment or the apartment building, and the input we received from those neighborhoods, those neighbors concerning that led us to increase the size of the notification areas for zoning changes and BZA and all, and it's a direct result of the public input that is causing us to adding the requirements for signage for regional planning and zoning changes in BZA. So the committee does hear public input on this. This is not as major of it's not like we changed our zoning philosophy on this. I would call this this is a big tweak more than a complete overhaul. And I appreciate the work that was done, and I recommend especially after we came through the committee of the whole, and you all heard what was in this. I would recommend approval, and I'll be voting for it.
Mayor? Ms. Frishy?
I think you gave a good example, Grant, where you said Hancock Regional Planning's attorneys are handling this. Again, it's us. And I agree with you, the notification process that came out of some of this discussion out on South Main of increasing notification, I would be all for passing that one simple ordinance like we've done on other things in the past from the community input. This was not community input. This was a department no different than Water and Sewer Committee, Street Department. We wouldn't let them overhaul things. I appreciate everything Matt does, and when I have questions and so forth, but I think we're being way too aggressive, too quick, and it's not what we need.
Hearing no other comments, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye. If your name is called, those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
2 nays.
The ordinance is adopted. We're going to now move back to our regular agenda and go to reports of municipal officers and departments.
City Planning Commission minutes of November 9th, 2023, as well as a staff report of December 14th, 2023.
Questions or comments? Minutes and report to be filed.
Letter from Service Safety Director Martin regarding annual Community Park Improvement Program grant.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from Mayor Mern regarding appointment to Shade Tree Commission. These appointments do not require council's confirmation.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from Mayor Mern regarding appointment to Civil Service Commission. This appointment does not require council's confirmation.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from Mayor Mern regarding appointment to City Planning Commission. This appointment does not require council's confirmation.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from Mayor Mern regarding appointment to Hancock Regional Planning Commission Board. This appointment does require council's confirmation.
Mr. Russell?
Move for approval of Dan Seaman to Hancock Regional Planning Commission.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of his appointment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. He is appointed.
Treasurer's Reconciliation Report for November 30th, 2023.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Summary financial reports for November 30th, 2023.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Findlay Police Departmental Activities Report for November 2023.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Findlay Municipal Court Activities Report for November 2023.
Questions or comments? Report to be filed.
Letter from Mayor Mern regarding Ohio Urban Forestry Grant.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from Police Chief Matthias regarding Findlay Hancock County Community Foundation President's Discretionary Grant number 24266.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from City Auditor Sashak regarding year-end items to transfer and appropriate.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
I apologize. He did request that the first paragraph of the letter be read into the council record.
Mr. Russell.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Palmer. All those in favor of the first paragraph being read into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Please do.
The following accounts require an appropriation or a transfer for this budget year so that the city may remain in compliance with Ohio Revised Code and audit. It is important that the rules be suspended and the legislation for these transfers be passed at your December 19th meeting in order to remain in compliance. I have listed below the amount of each request and corresponding reason for the appropriation or transfer.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
Letter from Service Safety Director Martin regarding City of Findlay Electric Aggregation Program.
Questions or comments? Letter to be filed.
I don't believe there's an add-on letter. No.
Committee reports.
The Water and Sewer Committee met on December 5th, 2023 to discuss sewer rule amendments via ordinance 2023-134. We recommend further clarification to the language and drafting of an amended ordinance number 2023-134. That's it.
Mr. Slough.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the committee report, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
An ad hoc committee met on December 11th, 2023 to discuss 2024 to 2025 council rules of procedure. We recommend modifications to section 11, paragraph E. Am I missing something? Hold on here. Attendance, I think. Majority rule of council members present to excuse an absence. Majority vote of council to adopt health guidelines. And section 11, paragraph M5, voting absences, abstentions, change shall to may.
Mr. Russell.
Move for adoption of the committee report.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion. Ms. Fishy.
I just had a question on the shall to may. What was the reason for, I would assume it should have been a shall, so why did we not make it a requirement?
That specifically said that the council member who is looking to abstain shall have conference with the law director, which means it's a requirement. Changing it to may means that they have the option to discuss with the law director if they should abstain. I believe the committee thought it was more appropriate to make it to change the verb to may from shall.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
An ad hoc committee met on December 11th, 2023 to discuss 2024 to 2025 council committee assignments. We recommend continued discussions with 2024-2025 council members on assignments.
Mr. Slough.
I move for adoption of the committee report.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
An ad hoc committee met on December 11th, 2023 to discuss compensation for elected officials. We recommend ordinance number 2017-119 be amended with new clarifying language similar to paragraph B in ordinance 2023-133 as amended.
Mr. Slough.
I move for adoption of the committee report.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the committee report say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
Add-on Appropriations Committee report from today. The Appropriations Committee to whom was referred a request to discuss Raise the Bar. We recommend that funding for Raise the Bar for $30,000 in 2024 be included in the 2024 budget.
Mr. Greeno.
Move for adoption of the committee report.
Second, Ms. Warnicki. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the committee report say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted.
Add-on Appropriations Committee report from today. To the Appropriations Committee to whom was referred a request to discuss the downtown recreational Area Environmental, we recommend the administration apply for brownfield grants to assist in the cost of environmental remediation on the downtown benching project and approve an appropriation to hire an environmental consultant to act as a fiduciary for the city in the downtown benching project.
Mr. Slough. Just so everybody knows, this is Mr. Slough's last meeting, and we made an original agreement that maybe he would participate more than normal this evening. So if I keep reminding him of what we discussed.
As I'm old now.
Yes, no. It's obviously anybody's right to motion or second. So we have a motion, second, Mr. Russell. Discussion. Ms. Frischie.
I just have a question on number one, that the administration apply for brownfield grants. I know the Rainick property grants or brownfield grants are being ran through the county. Are we going to be the actual ones, or is the county handling this as well?
Mayor?
No, it'll be the county. We'll just
So
work
it's
with
not
them.
the administration, it should be that the county, if we support the county in applying for brownfield grants?
Would you like to amend that accordingly?
I think that's what she just told me.
Well, and that is what I discussed at the meeting specifically. So we will coordinate with them, which is what we were planning to do anyways. So it just didn't get written down that way when it was translated from motion 1 to motion 2.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the committee report say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The committee report is adopted. Legislation. We will start with resolutions.
Second reading for Resolution 30, 2023. A resolution authorizing the use of a portion of the proceeds of bonds or bond anticipation notes of the city in the estimated principal amount of not to exceed $40 million to be issued for the purpose of designing, engineering, constructing, and improving a downtown recreation area, and authorizing and approving related matters and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Palmer.
So this legislation, or this resolution, can be voted on by the current council. I move that council's statutory rules be suspended and it be given its third reading.
Second, Mr. Slough. All those in favor of suspending the rules of council, say aye. If your name is called, those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough? Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Ballman?
Aye. The rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this resolution its third reading.
Resolution 30, 2023.
Mr. Slough.
I have moved for adoption of Resolution 30, 2023.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion. Mayor?
I just wanted to, again, note, this was something that the auditor had requested just to have in place in the event in the future that we do a bond issuance for capital improvements. It is not my intention that that would be necessary. Additionally, I just want to, again, state that the estimated, the discussion price point for the park is not $40 million. That is not the intent of this administration nor the intent of council based off of our prior communication. So I just wanted to note both of those things, that this is just paperwork to give us flexibility in the future.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution say aye. If your name is called, those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted.
First reading for Resolution 31, 2023. A resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Findlay, Ohio to apply for urban forestry grant program funds through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Division of Forestry and enter into an agreement to update the city of Findlay, Ohio City Planting and Management Plan, also referred to as the Shade Tree Ordinance, to further enhance the city of Findlay tree canopy.
Mr. Slough.
I would move for adoption of Resolution 31-2023.
Second, Mr. Ballman. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye, the resolution, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
And Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted.
First reading for Resolution 32, 2023. A resolution transferring funds within appropriated funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
I'd move for adoption of Resolution 32-2023.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
And Mr. Hellman.
The resolution is adopted. Mr. Russell.
If it would be council's pleasure, the folks from Racetrack are making their second visit to Findlay tonight for consideration of ordinance 2023-102 and 103, which are tabled. Normally, these would be considered during old business after we've run through the rest of the agenda. But they are traveling here and for the second time because of errors on our part. And I would ask if council would be so kind, can we lift these two from the table at this point in time in the agenda and give them their consideration so that the Racetrack folks can then exit the meeting and head for home at a due hour. So if it's council's pleasure, I would move that ordinance 2023-102 be lifted from the table.
Second, Mr. Hellman. All those in favor of lifting ordinance 2023-102 say.
And 103.
Are we doing both? Or just one at a time? I think we got to do one at a time. I think Robert's Rules of Order forces us into one at a time. So 102, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
And Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
The ordinance is untabled. So that is 2 readings. We need to do a third reading, right? Same as the others. So that ordinance had 2 readings, so we're going to do a third reading. 102.
Ordinance 2023-102.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of the ordinance.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion. Ms. Frishy.
Can I just ask you a question? Just one. Ask me to legislate.
Do you need my address again?
No, you're fine.
Is the red light on
It
still?
is.
Okay, good.
With the racetrack project, I'm just curious, if it wasn't annexed into the city, how would that impact you?
We would pay a higher utility rate, if I'm not mistaken, Jeremy, and then
For the water, you mean?
for water and sewer, and then the extension of Speedway Drive would not be part of the city's road inventory, and all the other utility extensions that come with it would also not be part of the city's inventory.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
And Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted. Mr. Russell.
Yeah, and thank you for lifting 102, and for the same reason, I'd move that ordinance 2023-103 be lifted from the table.
Second, Mr. Slough. All those in favor of untabling ordinance 2023-103 say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
And Mr. Russell.
Aye.
The ordinance is untabled. Mr. Slough.
I'd move for adoption of ordinance 2023-103.
It needs its reading.
I'm sorry, we need to have a third reading.
Ordinance 2023-103.
Now, Mr. Slough.
I move for adoption of ordinance 2023-103.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'm just here to follow the rules. Second, Mr. Palmer, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman? Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
And Mr. Slough.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted. And at this time, I'd like to thank Racetrack and welcome to our community. All right, we're looking forward to you being a good steward of our community and with discounts to all of us. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, I've been in a racetrack. They are very nice. At first, when this came up, I thought maybe Millstream Raceway out there was being redone, a new racetrack, you know. Yeah, all right, well, welcome. All right. So thank you, council, for allowing them to go first.
Okay, if I'm correct, then that moves us to ordinance, third reading for ordinance 2023-125. An ordinance repealing current Chapter 913 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, and in its place enacting a new Chapter 913 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, entitled Establishment of Shade Tree Commission and Tree Regulations Ordinance for the City of Findlay, Ohio, thus repealing ordinance number 2016-40 as amended, and all other ordinances and/or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith.
Mr. Slough.
I move for adoption of ordinance 2023-125.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frischie?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
And Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Sorry, I'm just catching up on notes. Third reading for ordinance 2023-126. An ordinance amending Chapter 1100 et sec of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, known as the zoning code, by rezoning the following described property referred to as 0 Keith Parkway, parcel number 570001019010 rezone, which previously was zoned C2 general commercial to M2 multifamily high density.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of ordinance 2023-126.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frischie?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
And Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-129. An ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of ordinance 2023-129.
Second, Mr. Russell. Discussion. Mr. Russell.
Jim, at the last meeting, we had some discussions about this ordinance, and I wondered if we got a report from the consultant or contractor we had, the third party that was examining this, and if do we have that? I haven't seen it. If it was distributed, I might have missed it.
Mr. Stashak.
Thank you. I think that's an awesome question. Hal Forrester is the individual that we work with. There was a meeting, and the meeting included myself and Rob Martin and somebody I can't think of at the moment. I apologize for that. The law director was there, which is important. Sorry, John, that wasn't intentional. I'm over 50, folks. And Hal reviews our regular insurance to make sure our liability and everything is in sharp shape and that we're getting what we're paying for. Hal not only was involved in reviewing this recently, but the prior year, prior to me making the recommendation in 2022 that we do this. What Hal had said, and he was very clear, that if you have the money, it is prudent to move money into this plan. But secondly, because of his role and his lack of knowledge with regard to our health plan, that it would not be his purvey to make an exact suggestion as to what dollar amount should be moved. That being said, during that meeting, I also said and Hal was, he's incredibly wonderful and forthcoming. He's been a great advocate for the city going back to the days when Janet Wobster was your city auditor. So we have a lot of respect for him. And I said, Hal, I said initially I was going to ask for significantly more after talking to you last year. That was not where I went with this. We felt that we wanted to get to 2 million, and that 2 million is not a floor. So it's very important that you folks understand it's funding it to 2 million, but we know that money will be spent down. And as I talked about in the budget meetings, like for example, your budget for next year is 175,000 or 174,000. It's a significant amount of money. If there was any concern on his part with regard to his understanding, knowledge, and actuarial capabilities, tell us, because we were happy to talk more. And at that point in time, the discussion and the invite went out, and we discussed in the meeting that should Rob and the Director of Law and Councilman Wobser want to have a discussion to reduce this amount, let's have that discussion before this meeting tonight so that we could clarify that. That discussion did not happen because, again, based on what happened, Hal was comfortable on the surface. If he wasn't and has said anything else, I would be shocked, because he includes me on everything that he includes the administration on. But going to that, I want to make sure you folks understand, and as a refresher, one of the major concerns I have is this plan is tied to your health plan. It's also tied to your liability coverage. It was not tied to either of those two things when it was created back in the 80s. The value back when it was created in the 80s, the $1 million that was funded, is the equivalent of almost $3 million, about $2.8 million today. So we've only been funding it to $1 million, and we spend that down regularly. Even though individual claims aren't large, the amount that we spend out of this fund is significant. And here is the number that came from our insurance broker, an actuarial number that they had done, that there's a 29% chance that we're going to have a claim in our health plan of over $1 million. And a 14% chance that we're going to have a claim exceeding $2 million in the world that we're in. That risk has significantly increased the risk you have to that plan. The tie to the self-insurance fund that was put in place by now State Treasurer Robert Sprague when he was city auditor was intended to create a source of funding to allow us to administratively work through a decimating year in our health plan so that we continue to provide those services to our employees without massively changing the plan in a single year. So it buys us a crossover. And again, you folks are familiar with what's going on with other things that are tied to that plan and what we spend. But most importantly, I said the 3 points I would leave you with is the spending is significant, the liability is significant, and it is not a fixed floor. It is to fund it to $2 million while you have the money today, and it will be spent down over time. So if any more money is to be added at that point in time, it will come to you just as this has come to you. And I hope that helps answer your question.
Mr. Russell.
So to confirm, Hal is an actuary? Is he an actuary?
It's my
That's what your understanding?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is he on the health side? Is he looking at this from the healthcare side of things?
No, he can't and won't. And in other words, he doesn't have access because of the HIPAA rules and things to that type of stuff.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I am your HIPAA officer for the city because the administration of the health plan through my office. I have shared what I can share with Hal without doing anything that would compromise the HIPAA rules. In some of the insights as to some of those costs and things that we're concerned about with forbidding the plan and administering the plan. And the risk of the high level claims in working with the broker, they're real. And I would tell you, and not to be dramatic, but to be realistic, the health plan, when I'm looking at the city's financials, is the one thing that concerns me in the evening when I'm home. It goes home with me regularly. It's the specialty drugs, the different things that are going on in the health plans as they are in the United States. Those costs, we all know, they're significant. And every time somebody advertises a drug on TV, people want it, and it's not cheap. And it's not just that. Fortunately, but unfortunately, we have less than 1,000 belly buttons on our plan, which makes us statistically anomalous. What that means in I guess, common language is our costs are random from any given year to any given year because we don't have enough people statistically to get a good standard deviation across the plan. So every 5 years on trend, we've experienced a very bad year, and we've been able to weather that. And as you know, through our budget, our health costs back in 2012 were almost $6 million. This year, they're projected between 7 and 8 ultimately, but that is minimal growth, and we benchmark, and our health costs are very good as compared to our peers, and as is published by the CERB report. However, that does not take the risk away. So between the liability, the environmental concerns and things, and different lawsuits that we've had, just all the things that self-insurance touches, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's insurance. It's meant to protect you and to pay those premiums out of that. And a great example of one of the things, and I'll leave it at this, that the law director regularly has us pay out of that plan for is when somebody hits a pothole and breaks their tire, but we knew about the pothole and didn't get a chance to go fix it. It's great we can do them in 24 hours, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if we know when we have liability, we have to pay, and that's one of the areas that money comes out. So it's well spent. It's not something that's going to go away. It's not something that obligates you to keep it that high forever. It's good insurance for you to be able to administer management of costs.
Mr. Russell?
Well, I appreciate to know that it's not lifting the minimum. That's a positive. Do we have stop loss insurance for health? And if so, what are the limits on the, or when does the stop loss kick in?
Yeah, we have a couple levels of stop loss. Over the years, when I first came in, we were stop lossing at the individual level at $100,000. So self-insuring to $100,000. Because of the administration of the plan and the statistical reviews that I do every year and working with the broker and our health actuary, that stop loss has gone from 100 to 125 to now we self-insure the first 150,000 of all of your 900 belly buttons that we're insuring. So our cost of stop loss deductible has gone up significantly. Then on top of the plan, in other words, beyond the stop loss, I have an aggregate. And that aggregate, I believe right now is, I want to say 6.7 million. We're bidding that out. And we're making sure we get that in place here as we speak so that we're covered there. And we've recently bid that. The idea there is, and it's kind of ironic, and I'm sorry the mic's a little fuzzy there. You would have thought if we were ever going to hit it, we would have hit it during COVID. We did not, fortunately. And there's some question actuarially, what is the right number for that? But we're very comfortable with where it's at in working with the broker, the actuary, and as well as our TPA that's helping us manage the plan. So we have two levels of protection.
Mr. Russell?
And Jim, I very much appreciate the information you're sharing, and these are just questions that I had come up with. And honestly, I'll tell you, it's because my wife worked through this with the school board, and these are some of this is what we discuss at dinner. Pretty exciting in the Russell household. You mentioned that there's a health actuary that you work with. What is that? What kind of input did they give into our levels, and is that a report that can be shared?
It is, and it is shared. It's regularly requested by the unions. It's provided to the administration, and we use it every year when we set that rate. So actually, it started as part of the union negotiations, but I don't believe it's a contract requirement anymore, correct me if I'm right, Don. But the scariest part of that, which contributes to one of my concerns here, is actuarially, because of our size of our belly button, our pool of people, and because of the risks of specialty drugs, now genetic health approaches that the medical world is taking and the cost of those, as well as specific risks that we have, actuarially, the recommendation is that we begin to reserve as high as $3 million on our health plan. However, to do that, you're looking at a significant premium increase should you do that. Currently, we are budgeting, and we budgeted the health plan in 2024 for a $2 million reserve. In other words, you add up what you start with in cash, the amount of expenses projected, and the premiums you're collecting from your employees as well as the city side. We should end the year with 2.1 to 2.3 million if we have an expected year. So there is a gap in that reserve. We built that reserve from when I started managing and administrating this plan in 2011 to 12, from nothing to $1 million to 1.2 million, and then got up to about 1.5. But it's taken a major jump over the last 2-3 years, from 1.5 all the way up to a recommendation of 3 million. And you don't expect to capture that all at once. So we're building that up. So this is another reason that added protection of the self-insurance side is a benefit for you should we have a bad year.
Other questions? Mr. Russell?
In the book that, or the council packet, I want to clarify that the balance of that fund right now is 849, close to 850,000 at the end of November.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And so we're looking to put an additional 1.1,
a little less than 1.1 million.
1.1. Is there anything that prevents us from doing this in next year after an appropriations committee can kind of flesh out this in detail versus doing it at this point in time? Because I hear what you said. I heard what you said, and then when you started talking about the 2 stop losses and trying to decide where to set the second stop loss and all, I'd like to see the self-insurance fund analyzed for the right amount. If it's $1.5 million, $2 million, $2.5 million, but working with appropriations and the administration to do that, continue on with the analysis that you're doing, and then present the full picture to council. And I don't think that you can do that in the time of this meeting, obviously, which would mean push it to next year. So that's why I'm asking about whether we could do the same thing, whether we could do this in Q1 of 2024.
Mr. Stashak?
That full presentation you request was given to you last year. And it's in your council record. It was done in a committee of the whole. And it was at the same time that it was presented and you decided to move forward with raising your minimum reserve to 3 months. So that's been done. Any numbers that are contributed to that would only increase the amount. However, you can put off doing this as long as you want. It's insurance. It's insurance to protect yourself when you're in a strong cash position. What it does, if you don't do it, it's very simple. It puts you in a position where rather than solving problems administratively, you're going to solve them in this room, and that was part of that discussion as well. Because it doesn't give a funding source for those problems when they happen. I hope they don't happen, but as we all know, most of the time, money is appropriated and spent, and stuff happens. So, I guess as your fiscal officer, ideally, I'd like to see more there. Realistically, a fair amount is to fund this up to $2 million. This is not doing that, as you point out. You've already spent another almost $200,000 out of that fund. You'll spend another $200,000 out of that fund next year, and I guess I would encourage you to do it while you can, and I would encourage you to do it before you find another use for that money, because it protects you not only today, but it protects you long into the future. And one of the things that I haven't talked about, I don't think, in this room, and I think the community deserves to know, on the environmental side of things, there is no coverage available that you can afford. And Hal was clear about that. You folks need to understand, coverage for environmental insurance is ridiculously expensive. The premiums would be, just for one area of coverage, would be far more than anything else that you did. And you own, almost multiple parks you own are unlined dumps. And Mr. Greeno could speak to it if he chose to. We have 2 areas in particular, one at Cooper Field and one at Hancock Field, where you have active seepage into the watershed that we're protecting against. And the only thing protecting you against major expenditures on the seepage are agreements that were put in place years ago where we have certain obligations that we are required to do, certain functions that we are required to do. One of them is, I think the guys call it a diaper that they put on the actual creek because oil is seeping into that water. Environmental liability, as big as health liability is just as big, just as important, and just as risky. So I can tell you, sitting here as your fiscal officer, again, you can put it off as long as you want, but you are certainly doing no harm and a world of good should you pass this amount tonight. So it's up to you, and we will move the money or not move it, depending what you decide in the next few moments. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about it, though. I hope I passed the quiz. That was a lot of questions.
Mr. Russell.
Just one more quick clarification, Jim. So we have it at a $1 million level currently, and so we're below that. And what is that in the first? Let's say we didn't do anything tonight. Is that in the first ordinance next year, where we would then move the money to bring it up to the 1 million mark, or because we're at like what 850,000. We don't spend that down to zero. We try to bring it back up to zero, up to the $1 million mark, don't we?
Mr. Stashek.
You're going to spend it down $174,000 per your meeting the other day immediately, Ordinance 1. So you're going to drop that down to roughly 600 and change at your first meeting.
And then do you?
Oh my God!
Is it the common practice to bring that up to the million only at the last meeting of the year? Or when do you bring that up to the one? When do we bring that up to the? I don't recall the timing of that.
Just a second, Ms. Frishy, you seem to be anxious to.
Yeah, I'd like to call the question. We've had a lot of discussion on this, and our auditor is our expert. I think we need to take this vote and move on, and if Grant has questions, he can ask them later.
I'm sorry, there's lack of a second. So, Mr. Stashek, will you, I'm sorry, Mr. Niemeyer? The question has been called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? I think we're going to have to take a roll call. So,
This is to what?
to call the question.
Call the question. Mr. Ballman?
Nay.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Nay.
Mr. Hellman?
Nay.
Mr. Niemeyer? Mr. Palmer?
Nay.
Mr. Russell?
Nay.
Mr. Slough? Ms. Warnicki? Only two in favor.
So the motion to call the question is defeated. Mr. Stashek, will you answer Mr. Do you remember what his question was?
I actually don't.
It was just
Question again, Mr. Russell.
It's like going back on a quiz.
Jim. It was just about like when do we bring that up to, like, what's the mechanics for bringing that up to the 1 million as a regular part of a city year?
I think that's a great question. And the reason I think that's a great question, because whenever I believe as your fiscal officer, and the numbers indicate that it is reasonable and prudent and sometimes even necessary, is when I bring things to you. So this would be the second time I have brought this to you, because it's the second time that I have thought it is not only reasonable but prudent to do. In terms of the timing of it, this particular piece of legislation was requested by Chairman Welpser and supported initially by the mayor. I know she's since then questioned that a little bit. And ultimately, the folks who look at it thinks it's a good idea if they're involved, that you've asked me to have a look at it. And in terms of the timing can be any time you want. But it's prudent and reasonable at the moment.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Nay.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Nay.
Mr. Bowman?
Nay.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
3 nay. 6 in favor.
So it's 6-3. The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-130, an ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of ordinance 2023-130.
Second, Mr. Hellman. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
And Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-131 as amended. Oh, not amended yet. An ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of 2023-131.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion? Jeremy?
So just what Niece was saying on that amendment, just want to make sure it's 100% correct on that. I know it's appropriating funds, but we already had FAA and ODOT previous. The official name is Runway 725, and then on the ordinance, I know you guys don't have that in front of you, but it's 034-034 instead of 024. I've gave those numbers. It's just correcting numbers, make sure we have the correct grant numbers on those.
Mr. Russell?
Does that require, you want that, I would move that the ordinance
Be amended.
2023-131 be amended as per Jeremy's comments.
Second, Mr. Ballman. All those in favor of amending the ordinance, say aye, or say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ordinance is amended, as Jeremy said, and Grant agreed. And Mr. Slough said, okay.
Adopt as amended.
Perfect.
Adopt
So-
as amended.
Yeah, so now we need to make a motion to adopt as amended.
I would make a motion to approve as amended.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Palmer. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the amended, the ordinance as amended, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
And Mr. Hellman.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-132. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, service safety director, and/or city engineer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, to advertise for bids where required and enter into contracts to improve a stone bike path along the Blanchard River, project number 319-34600, appropriating funds from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources through the Recreational Trails Program, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
I would move for approval of amendment of ordinance 2023-132.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
And Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Third reading for ordinance 2023-133 as amended. An ordinance establishing the salaries for the mayor, auditor, and director of law of the city of Findlay, Ohio, beginning January 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2027, and repealing all other ordinances and/or parts of ordinances in conflict thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of ordinance 2023-133.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Bowman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
The ordinance is adopted.
That one is tabled. Am I correct that 2023-134 as amended is tabled? No, okay. Third reading for ordinance 2023-134 as amended. An ordinance adding new section V6A through C and V7 to the current rules and regulations of the City of Findlay Water and Wastewater Departments of Chapter 6109 of the codified ordinances of the City of Findlay, Ohio, under Ohio Revised Code Section 743.01 through 743.04, Chapter 6109, Safe Drinking Water, Chapter 6111 Water Pollution, and 3745-95 of the Ohio Administrative Code, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of ordinance 2023-134.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion. Ms. Frishy.
This was just standard updates, right, Jeremy, that came down from the state on this one?
Go ahead.
So the sewer rules and stuff, that was for the utility billing and stuff, going through what the process was we had on that. There was some other standard language we changed within that, but that was, we had multiple sewer and water committee meetings with that to discuss it.
This is changing the water fee schedule.
No, it's not changing the water fee schedule. It's how we treated the water meters, rates and
Oh, I thought
stuff.
that was
We wanted, working with the auditor's office, they wanted to make sure that we had everything spelled out correctly in that. So it was just working on the language of that.
Mr. Russell.
Yeah, this simply clarified two things: how they did the billing adjustments as part of the water transmitter project when they kind of resynced, and also it detailed how payment plans are being done for when we're working with customers who are behind on their bills. And per the auditor, he asked that the rules get updated, the water rules and sewer rules get updated. And that's what this ordinance is doing.
Ms. Frishy.
So we got the application process as well completed. I guess I was looking at the committee report from December 5th. I thought you guys were still getting answers. I thought that
we had a meeting
that we just
he brought the initial. I'm mixing my dates. The last one we had, he brought some clarifying information. I think it's the one that was highlighted in yellow. We gave Rob some information asking him to, when he made the amended ordinance, that it would show up like this, and he sent a draft that was agreeable to the committee. Actually, Rob and I worked on it. The committee gave me the permission to work with Rob on it, but the instructions were pretty clear as to what we wanted, and it's reflected in this ordinance.
Mr. Calb. Oh.
Yeah, just to clarify, so yeah, after the December 5th, I believe, it was Sewer and Water Committee, there really wasn't any language change. It was where we wanted, like, the order of certain things, different wording, but it wasn't any of the policy changes were changed. That's where Rob worked with Councilman Russell to figure out, okay, we want, this part here, just to make things flow and a couple word things.
Ms. Frishy.
So it didn't, I'm looking at the committee report. It says further clarification to the language on December 5th for the ordinance. So you're saying that Grant did it on his own and approved everything, and it didn't come back to committee after December 5th? Right?
Mr. Russell.
I worked with Rob to present the ordinance, to have the ordinance amended as it is in the packet. And yes, Rob and I worked on it, and then after that, I sent it to the committee via email and said, as an FYI, this is what is going to be in your packet. And the other members of the committee, if they don't believe that what is in the ordinance is what we agreed to in the committee meeting, they may speak their mind and tell me that I'm all wet.
All those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
And Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2023-138, an ordinance appropriating funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
I had moved the statutory rules of council be suspended and this ordinance be given its second and third reading.
Second, Mr. Greeno. All those in favor of suspension of the rules say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
And Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2023-138. Ordinance 2023-138.
Mr. Slough.
I'd move for adoption of 2023-138.
Second, Mr. Greeno. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2023-139. An ordinance amending codified ordinance number 2017-119, establishing the salaries for city council members, president of council, and treasurer of the city of Findlay, Ohio, and repealing all other ordinances and/or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough.
I would move for that the statutory rules of council be suspended and ordinance 2023-139 be given its second and third reading.
Second, Mr. Ballman. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
And Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2023-139. Ordinance 2023-139.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of the ordinance.
Second, Ms. Warnicki. Discussion? Mr. Russell.
The reason this ordinance is in front of us is because of some, to add the language that we added into the, to clarify how raises are calculated. If we do not pass this ordinance, council president will be given a 6% salary increase for next year, versus a 3% salary increase as is per this ordinance. We are not, the language is not going to take effect for the treasurer for the treasurer, because the treasurer is currently in the term, and legislation, or the Ohio Revised Code says you cannot change salary once you're in a term. The thing that I find troubling is that the way we calculated the treasurer's salary, the language that controls the salary of the treasurer, which is similar to ours prior to this amendment, says that we should be, council president, all treasurer should receive a salary increase along the same lines as that received by non-union employees. Yet somehow our calculation says that if a non-union employee who would receive $1,060 worth of pay in 2023, that person is going to receive $1,091.80 in 2024. That's a 3% raise. But somehow we have interpreted that for the treasurer, and it would have been for everybody else except for this amendment. We're going to be paying the treasurer, instead of $1,091, we're going to pay them $1,112 or $1,123.60, a 6% raise. And I think, we Dennis Hellman a couple of years ago led an ad hoc committee that put together the way the council wished for raises to happen. Our law director wrote the ordinances that we're amending right now to capture and do what Dennis's ad hoc committee and then that council approved, and now our own interpretation of our own ordinances don't line up with the intention of what council did a couple of years ago. And so in this situation, we're fixing it for two of the three elected official parties, but we're not fixing it for the treasurer. And I think it's wrong, but I'll vote for it because two out of three is better than 0 out of 3.
Ms. Frishy.
So I voted against the previous ordinance, and I'll vote against this one. And the only main reason that I'm voting against these is because I know many years ago there was a discussion about the salary ordinance for elected officials, and we were told that we could not we would have to make a change to an elected official's salary before a primary election, so that it may or may not entice somebody else to want to run. So since we are past that window, that is why I'm voting no on both this evening.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Russell?
Well, for clarification, if the previous ordinance wouldn't have passed, we would have been unable to pay the mayor, the law director, or the auditor for the next 4 years, because we would have not set their salary by legislation prior to the commencement of their term. And if, in this case, if this one does not pass, you will be giving yourself an additional 3% raise over what the non-union employees of the citizens. So if that is that is what happens if this does not pass. That we are giving ourselves a larger raise than the non-union employees. And I, for one, if this doesn't pass, I'll be giving the additional money to a charity to a charity, because I won't be taking it as salary.
Ms. Frishy?
I fully understood that the mayor, auditor, and law director's salary ordinance, and what I would have supported is just renewing the same, since they did not get those reviewed before the primary election. And I'm just following the ordinances that were put in place, but I guess Dennis's ad hoc committee, and we could have addressed those at a later time.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
And Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2023-140. An ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director of the City of Findlay, Ohio to accept and enter into a grant agreement with the Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation in order to receive funds from their President's Discretionary Grant Number 24266 program to be utilized for community engagement activities between the City of Findlay Police Department and the residents of the City of Findlay, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough?
I would request that the rules of council be suspended and this ordinance be given its second and third reading.
Second, Mr. Hellman. All those in favor of suspension of the rules, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye. Rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2023-140, ordinance 2023-140.
Mr. Slough?
Move for adoption of 2023-140.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2023-141, an ordinance appropriating and transferring funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Slough?
I would move the rules of council be suspended and this ordinance be given its second and third reading.
Second, Mr. Palmer. All those in favor of the suspension of rules, say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
And Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Rules of council have been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2023-141, ordinance 2023-141.
Mr. Slough?
I would vote in favor.
Oh, nope, you need to make...
Oh, I'm sorry. I
make a motion.
make a motion to approve the motion as read.
I'm sorry, Ms. Slough, but after these many years, I think you'd get it straight.
You
Got
called me
one more
with my
chance.
proverbial pants down.
I love you, brother. I'm just giving you, I'm just razzing you a little bit. So we have a motion. Do I have here a second? Second, Mr. Russell? All, discussion. Mayor?
Well,
Just wondered, Mr. Russell.
Jim, the last item in this is a transfer of $1 million to the severance payout reserve fund because of anticipated retirements over the next 2 years. I think it's different than in years past, looking 2 years out versus one. What's the level of retirements that are causing us to raise this $1 million? Do you have like a number?
That's only going out to 2024. 2 years would have been probably because the deputy drafted that during 2023. It covers 23 and 24. It's our practice to only cover one future year, the current budget year, which would be 2024.
Okay.
So that's a misunderstanding of the semantics of the paragraph.
Okay,
Yeah, we've
thank
been
you.
very intentional about that.
Is it really $1 million?
It's likely a lot larger because we have no knowledge of the service time a lot of, for example, our police officers and firemen have in the armed services. So those are cumulative as well. So it's likely a lot larger.
Mayor?
I had a similar question. Looking back at the financial snapshot report that you provide monthly with the financials, I didn't see it in this month's, but the last report I received, the shortfall estimation throughout the year was estimated at $335,000. So I was a bit surprised to suddenly see the $1 million. So I guess, can you help me understand why we went from 335 to $1 million?
Yeah,
Mr.
because 2023, to make up the shortfall at the time the snapshot was done, which was a budgetary number earlier in the year, the shortfall was $333,000. Then as we become aware of more information and we complete a calendar year, more people become eligible, and then we project and update the projections for 2024, and the deputy auditor does the calculation, comes back with a slightly conservative number and puts that forward. In other words, we're not budgeting more, we're budgeting within. So we're rounding down to make sure we're not over budgeting for that next calendar year. And what I'll do, if you like, and I'm happy to do this, we haven't regularly provided the names because a lot of times the names we know, the people don't want them provided and things like that. But what I can do is I can provide you some numbers, and then if you have a concern, let's do a de-appropriation, and I'm happy to initiate that should there be a concern. But I'm very confident in this number, and as you all know, we've got a superb deputy auditor, and she takes this role very seriously and this number very seriously because she's in it this year.
Mayor?
I appreciate that. I guess I have just been misreading the report. I think it would be helpful if starting next year, it would estimate where the year end is, given that's how all the other numbers are. So I would just I think it would be beneficial if we projected what the difference or shortfall at the end of the year is going to need to be so that we can keep an eye on what our estimated liability is. That's how I've always read that. But it sounds like that was the prior year's start rather than the projected year end.
Mr. Stashak?
Apparently, yeah, you have misread it. The snapshot is a budgetary figure. State requires us to do budgets based on cash, based on appropriated numbers and known information. When we get to the point of the end of the year and we're doing our modified accrual and reporting the books, that would be something different. So you're asking actually for two different things. Happy to provide both later this year, but for as far as this budget goes and as far as the report you've been looking at, that is a cash report. Hence why the deficit projected in the budget doesn't change until the very following year when we update the budget numbers with the new budget. In other words, it's projected once we add the appropriations in throughout the year, then your departments turn back in a couple $1 million, and ultimately between that and extra revenue, and this year we had the extra $5 million in income tax that rounded those numbers up and made the budget whole. And it's nice to see that green bar above the red, which has happened for you, I think, every year you've been here. So it's a good thing. Don't be disturbed by it, but the number we're providing you is well calculated.
All those in favor of the ordinance say aye. Mr. Russell?
So I'm looking at it's actually page 23 of our packet from November 21st, and it's under the bar of financial policy amounts. and it says that the severance payout reserve fund and potential retirements through 2022, and I assume that's a typo, and that really means 2023. It said the year-end projected balance is $1,720,145, and then there's another number, $2,055,602, and it gave the over short as a 335. So you're telling me that year-end projected number of 1.7 million isn't what? I mean, it's on a graph. It's in a table. I guess I'm confused.
It's your budget. There's nothing to be confused about.
But are so you're expecting us to have $1.7 million in that fund at the end of the year? I mean, I understand these numbers are through the end of October. I don't have the end of the November data because it wasn't in the pack. This thing wasn't in the packet.
No, the budget numbers are updated, the revenues are updated, and the reports are updated. I'm not sure what you're asking me, to be honest, Mr. Russell. What I can tell you is, in order to properly fund the severance payout reserve through 2024, based on the known potential retirements, in other words, your liability for people who could retire today and in 2024, should they choose to, in order to fund that liability, which is a real liability, you need to add this $1 million to your severance payout reserve fund. If you do not want to fund that liability anymore, which has become a common practice of this council for the last several years, then don't. But you'll be underfunded, and you'll be underfunded by whatever number you don't pass tonight.
Mr. Russell?
And what is just a raw number of individuals who meet this criteria?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the report.
Okay.
I'm happy to provide it in the update should you want a de-appropriation after the first of the year if you pass it. And again, if you don't pass it, you'll be underfunded. But I was instructed, not only by this council in the prior years, but by the appropriations chair, to include this number in this piece of legislation.
Mr. Russell?
And this caught me by surprise, Jim, and that's why I'm asking you about it. And I looked back. In 2022, we appropriated $10,000 to this fund. In 2021, in the end of the year, in the end of the year thing, and in 2021 we appropriated nothing. In 2020, $369,000. In 2019, nothing. So $1 million is really unique. So to me, if we have this big of a jump in retirement exposure, then we have a big talent loss happening. I mean, I would expect that the mayor is going to be flipping out that she has so many people leaving.
Mr. Station?
Mr. Russell, I'm disappointed that you have entirely ignored the expense side of that equation. Not only do you project and pay out revenue and have people who qualify to retire, but we pay things out throughout the year, and we've paid things out this year. I'm telling you, the number's correct. Choose to fund it or not fund it, and I would love to continue to keep you informed, as I always do. But this is a standard business, standard practice, and the number is calculated by reports generated by the payroll clerk, payroll accountant, and she provides those numbers based on review and works with the deputy auditor to make sure they haven't missed anything. The deputy auditor then takes a look at the fund, determines what the projected balance is after interest and everything else, and then based on that, they calculate a number. That number's provided, and the deputy auditor is the one who drafted this piece of legislation. So as surprising as it is, I am confident in saying this is your obligation, and you can choose to fund it or not, but whether you fund it or not, it's a liability to the city in 2024.
Ms. Frishy?
It seems like the mayor and Grant have some frustration on $1 million numbers tonight. My question is, between the mayor and the auditor, do you not know what employees are getting close to retirement? Do you guys not talk about things? I don't know if you want to answer that. I don't think there should be a shocker here. I remember a few years ago, we were talking about a lot of retirements coming up in police and fire.
I'm not, from a management of our department standpoint, our department heads do a great job of knowing what's coming down the pike and managing that. I think this was just surprising to me because, again, going back over the years, it's typically been in my recollection, a couple $100,000 that we shored up at the end to meet that target. And so going from what I was kind of keeping in the eye of, $340,000 or similar to $1 million was surprising, because that didn't have any discussion. And so I think it would just be beneficial in future years that maybe we have an appropriations committee meeting prior to the end of the year to go into these in a little more detail, to, again, just seems like these kind of come up at the end of the year every year, but the numbers, we're just not getting a lot of background, and I think that that's just an important context.
Mr. Hellman.
Since there seems to be some discussion or confusion on this issue, can we postpone this until the first of the year? I guess that would be directed towards the auditor.
So is that directed at me, the auditor?
It would be directed towards the
Okay.
auditor.
Mr. Station.
It is imperative that ordinance 2023-141 passes tonight.
And what makes that imperative?
It can be amended. Ms. Frishy.
We're spending a lot of time on $1 million. I want to make sure that our retirement folks are covered and that we're not going to have a surprise. We're spending more time on this than the 50% water rate increase. So I think we need to get this done, and then if we want to discuss it in 2024, let's do it, but let's make sure we are covered.
Mr. Russell.
Yeah, Denny, this is we see this ordinance every year. It helps balance a lot of funds that we need to do per Ohio Revised Code. This is the one part of this that caught my eye and makes me scratch my head. The fact that Jim mentioned we could deallocate next year gives me enough comfort. I think we should pass this as is. But we should further discussions on the level of funding in that severance payout in the new year. But this absolutely has to pass this year.
Fine either way. Fine.
Hearing no other questions or comments, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Aye.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
And Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
First reading for ordinance 2023-142. And an emergency ordinance authorizing all actions necessary to support the continuation of a governmental electric aggregation program with opt-out provisions pursuant to Section 4928.20 of the Ohio Revised Code, the aggregation program, directing the mayor of the city of Findlay, Ohio to executive an electric supply agreement with Energy Harbor LLC and declaring an emergency.
I think that was execute.
I do
It's
too.
just a typo. Mr. Slough.
Is there a motion to approve the, I would suspend the rules for number 2023-142.
Second, Mr. Palmer. All those in favor of suspension of the rules on this ordinance, say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Palmer.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Slough.
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki.
Aye.
Mr. Ballman.
Aye.
Ms. Frishy.
Nay.
Mr. Greeno.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
And Mr. Niemeyer.
Aye.
Rules of council been suspended, and the clerk will give this ordinance its second and third reading.
Ordinance 2023-142. Ordinance 2023-142.
I would move for adoption of ordinance 2023-142.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion. Ms. Frishy.
Jeremy, what is the rate that's expiring?
I have that. 1 second. It's in my stack of
It would be a
papers
question
over
for
here.
Rob, and the mayor can answer that. Mayor?
Yes, one moment. My apologies, I should have grabbed it.
And while you're looking, was it also 12 or 24 months last time?
I think we typically do the 24 months because then that allows them to manage the market a little bit better. The current rate is I'm sorry, I should have had that pulled separately. I printed it off. The email. Here, I got it. Okay. So in the letter, the current 24 fixed rate that they're looking to enter us into was 0.0653 per kilowatt hour. However, if if once we let them know, once we say yes, we can lock it in, they actually will kind of look at it for a couple of days and lock it in. He emailed me more recently today and said if we can get approval tonight, that they should be able to get a slightly better rate at 0.0644. But
what is it? What is it expiring at? I know what it's going to be, I guess, is what I was trying to see how much of a fluctuation we're seeing in the market.
I don't recall off the top of my head. I apologize.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough? Aye. Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Baldwin?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
And Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted. Old business. Ms. Frishy?
Don, at the budget meeting, we had some discussion on your budget with regards to our lease equipment and lease office space. And you had said that you had no ties over to the Hackenberg, Rasmussen, whatever the name of the practice is now. Is that still correct? Okay. So, how long has that been?
This is year,
Okay. So that leads to my question, because after the budget, I went onto the transparency site and looked at the lease payments and for both equipment and for office. And it said it was being an employee reimbursement. I called the auditor's office. I understand the checks are being made personally to you. And I guess I'm a little confused on what's going on. So I'm trying to understand this, so in case we need to readdress your budget before the first of the year. You don't receive checks every month?
No,
I
I don't have anything to do. I'm not in the firm. I am out. This is my job. It's been there. It's been like that for last 9 years.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to ask the law director, the auditor, to do some research for me, because I was on your transparency site, and if it is wrong, we need to fix that. And I would also like to see, I had requested from your office a copy of the lease agreements that are in place that we're doing these reimbursements for. And if they're not going to Dawn, I need to know more information before the first of the year budget, if you can get that.
Other old business. Mr. Stashek?
Hey, real quick, I want to get something in the record, which is in additional information with regard to the comment by the mayor at the last meeting. She mentioned that in my review of the PO and some of the discussion around water, she mentioned that there was an expert attorney who was involved who was going to do some defining for us. And as part of that caused me to take a look to make sure what we were paying was what I thought we were being paid. And through that process, I came up with an email conversation that was provided to me through a public records request between the mayor and Dan Schaefer as the director of Findlay Hancock County Economic Development. And it's talking about the subject of regionalization of the water. And the mayor had mentioned at that time she was not very interested in establishing a water district, which, as she understood it, would establish a separate entity and board to operate the district. She didn't think it was the right move for the community at the time. However, Mr. Schaefer's response to this, and I think it's relevant because of them calling a meeting in January, I think January 10th, was that I believe a regional approach to both water and sewer with the city of Findlay as the hub should be explored before invalidated. To that end, as you know, and this is a quote I'm reading directly from the email, I have engaged Spittler Huffman LLP, Rex Huffman, to advise Findlay Hancock County Economic Development and also help facilitate a broader conversation that encompasses water and sewer beyond the municipality. My office is engaged in all of Hancock County, including the townships and villages. My plan to pursue stakeholder engagement process to get all variables on the table. And my concern is, and there seems to be a complete misunderstanding here on behalf of people who don't understand history and what we've done. You do not have surplus water. You have reserve water. And that's clearly defined in how it was set up and what we've done. So your reservoir is in reserve. And it concerns me very much that economic development is out there, and I'll let you come to your own conclusions with regard to what they're doing and what this email indicates. So thank you, and I just wanted to get that in the record as a full clarification with regard to comments of expert attorneys being involved.
Other old business. There were several ordinances that were left tabled. I didn't know if there was any actions on those this evening. Mr. Palmer.
Yes, I'd like to lift ordinance number 2023-071 off the table.
Second, Ms. Warnicki. All those in favor of lifting ordinance 2023-071, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. That will be lifted. That has 2 readings. So we will,
Back in August.
after the 3rd. Okay. Mr. Palmer.
Yeah, I move that ordinance number 2023-071 be approved.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion, Ms. Frischi.
I was not able to be at the Appropriations Committee, Josh. I'm a little shocked that you made a motion to untable and pass this when we have such environmental. I know you guys talked about the one environmental, the 100,000 that we appropriated to look at other sites. However, the Rainick property is redder than red hot candy. And we have gone through one brownfield grant. That is chromium we're dealing with over there, not lead, which is highly cancer causing potentially. And I think before we move forward with moving 1.5 million, I think we need to hold the fort down here and wait till we figure out what's going on. I will further mention that last night on the 11 o'clock news, there was a quote from the mayor that she went ahead and applied for some of that $750 million that she never asked council or asked for permission for, but she was quoted as saying that she had requested, but no action was taken by council, and she asked for 15 million. So if you want to recalculate and lower that appropriation based off the auditor's notes in the last council meeting, I think maybe that could be a discussion, but a big stretch for me. But how can you think 1.5 million is justified to move when she's applying for 15 million in grant funding, which is lowering our 40 million? And remember, we said that's about, I think they said, what, 10% is what the engineering costs typically are, is how you're getting to that 4 million. Is that correct, Mayor? When we talked about the engineering design work is typically 10%.
Yeah,
So if we're lowering it by 15 million already, maybe we don't need to be doing all this moving of dollars, and especially we're not doing our due diligence as city council to make sure that the site is fully safe. And the Rainick one is the biggest concern to me.
Mayor?
So I can hit on a couple of clarifying things since you were not able to attend the meeting where a lot of this was already addressed. With the Rainick property, that has to be remediated. The county is already addressing it. They can't hand it over to us until it is clean and safe to be able to be used to the standard of a park environment. So that is not yet our problem. It's being addressed. When we look at the overall footprint, they identified some areas that need to be cleaned up. Nothing that is overly concerning. It's going to be addressed as part of the dirt movement. As we discussed at the Appropriations Committee meeting today, we've put some checkpoints in to make sure that the city's interests are protected and that it's clean to the level that we expect. I did submit the grant request form, which is literally a 2-page saying, hey, we have this project in mind that we're looking at and we would like state support, and here's how we may get some additional funding. And yes, I did submit that yesterday because it did not per our codes, I can submit grant applications without council authorization if it does not state that I need a resolution, nor is it requiring us to have any match. And so I was able to submit that because we would have missed the deadline if I had waited for you all today. And then I assumed that if things did not move forward in the, then I could go back to them and say, never mind, remove the thing. If you, in the application, which I'm sure the auditor shared with you because I know he requested it from me, is that it's always been a conversation point of the funds would be layered, right? So I expect that the city is going to contribute. Hopefully, I said no more than 10. Hopefully it's much less than that. We won't know until we go through this engineering process. And then 2, bringing in outside grant dollars, which I will never apologize for bringing in grant dollars because those are tax dollars that our community and our citizens have paid that went to the state and federal government. If we want to talk about making changes at the federal and state level to decrease taxes and decrease those pools of money, then let's have that conversation. But if our money's going up there, we might as well bring it back home. And that is something that I think is advantageous for us to pursue. I think I hit, and again, I just want to clarify that it's not a $40 million park. That is, from day one, I have said that is not my expectation. And anything that we do in this area, I think everybody has said, yes, we need to do something about this. This is part of our downtown. It's a key green space, and it has limited uses beyond that. No matter what we do, we have to have a design to do those elements and engineering to do those elements. And as I've stated multiple times, the contract that is in place is for work performed. We will be billed after that. And if we decide to not move forward at any point in time, we can get out of the contract. The $1.5 million request was because we said we should appropriate funds that are going to cover the entire contract amount. And the contract is written to perform all work for up to the 30% designs, which is the main bulk. If you ask engineers, that's the main bulk of the work. Those final 60, and then that final 10%, beyond that is kind of where you start working through all the details. So that 30% is really the important parts for us to start refining this and be able to then go out into the community and have detailed conversations about the specific aspects they want to see, and if it makes sense for us to do it now or if it makes sense for us to phase it out over the years.
Ms. Frishy.
So you talk about the footprint. A lot of that footprint is not even city property yet, okay? Number 2, I feel like we're trying to willy-nilly the whole fact that we have some environmental issues going on. I have not said that they will not get cleaned up and that they will not get remediated, but that could be a long process, and you can do this design work now, and it might not happen for 5 years, so we're going to be redoing it all over again, and we're not there yet. I don't know why we have to get the cart before the horse. There's absolutely no reason, and I don't know why you don't take seriously this environmental situation.
Mayor.
Again, Councilwoman, you weren't at the meeting today where all of this was discussed, and the environmental remediation will be addressed as part of benching, which is set to go out for bid in April. Additionally, regarding the ownership of the property, since May 16th, you've had ordinance 2023-043, where the commissioners have already authorized the transfer of the properties in the entire area to the city of Findlay as soon as the benching work is complete. And that is our assurances that the properties in this area will be transferred to us. And that specifically came out of the appropriations meeting that we had back in March or April, where we said we wanted to have a formal document. They passed it for us at our request, and then we've sat on it for 7 months.
Because we have environmental issues. And you're taking back that I wasn't at your appropriations suddenly last minute meeting so we can pass this 1.5 million unnecessarily. But I am telling you the focus for me is the Rainick property, and we don't know how much that could cost or how long that could take, and we've exhausted the first brownfield grant. And yes, the state is coming out with more brownfield grants, but we have to come to a standard that is safe for kids to play in that area, and we're not there yet. And I'm done with this discussion.
Mr. Palmer.
All right, CEC today came in and discussed this with us. There is not, we are taking care of the risks that are there. It's not that difficult. It's just removing dirt. And then they will decide where we can send it based on the state regulations. It's not very difficult, Holly.
Mayor?
I just want to go on the record stating there's never been a conversation by anyone in this room that has not said that having a safe environment in this area is not top priority. We just all understand that we can move forward with the design as well as address the environmental concerns to make sure it is a safe environment.
Ms. Frishy?
Josh, I don't think it's hard to understand, but my question for you is, why do you have to appropriate 1.5 million today and not wait until we just pick up that dirt and move it to the right landfill? And again, you're talking about the 67 drills that we just did, and that's one piece of the pie. Rainick is not part of that. Rainick is a much bigger situation.
Mr. Palmer? No? Mr. Baumann?
Move to call the question.
Mr. Palmer? All those in favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. They're just a majority. That's all I'm going to say, a majority. So all those in favor of the ordinance, say aye. If your name is called, those opposed, nay.
Let me find my paperwork. I'm sorry. Get ready. Mr. Slough?
Aye.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
2 nays.
The ordinance is adopted. Are there any other ordinances that are currently tabled that need to be brought off the table? Mr. Russell?
Yeah, there's, this one needs.
I would make a motion that, ordinance 2023-043 be lifted from the table.
Second, Mr. Palmer. All those in favor of the ordinance being pulled from the table or untabled, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? It is untabled. It's had its third reading
A few months ago.
a few months ago. Yeah. Mr. Russell.
Move for approval of ordinance 2023-043.
Second, Mr. Palmer. Discussion. Mr. Stashek.
Yes, I have a question for council. Should you pass this tonight, does it jeopardize the strength and the ability of having 2 distinct governmental entities involved in applying for the grants for cleaning up these properties? In other words, the county commissioners, I've talked to them, talked to some other folks involved. We had a report today, and it's very clear that it is a stronger position for the 2 entities to be separately approaching the grant needs until we have a clear definition of other monies that are needed for not only Rainick, but the other properties involved in this through what we're looking to do and the hiring of the consultant. My second question is, tangential to that is, we discussed tonight and council agreed and adopted a committee report which says you're going to work with an environmental consultant to protect your interests. Why in the world, or let me ask you differently, why would you adopt this ordinance right now before consulting with the environmental consultant that you're about to hire, whose job is to protect your interests and put you in the best position you can be in? I think it's worth considering before you pass this, because it goes directly to the issue that's been discussed. And if it's true, there is no harm in waiting, because as it says under section 1, following completion of phase 2 hydraulic improvements. In other words, you're not even talking about taking these properties on until this project's done. Do not jeopardize your ability to acquire funds and to protect your interest, whether it be implied, contractual, or otherwise, until you know and your consultant is comfortable that you're doing the right thing. That would be my advice as your fiscal officer, and the consultant's not here. They left.
Other discussion? Mr. Baumann?
I guess first point would be, because I think we could do the both of those items simultaneously. Secondly, it was my understanding that we have a memorandum of understanding from the commissioners that whether we take ownership or not, they're still the ones that will carry out the mitigation because they administer the brownfield grant, correct?
Mayor?
So yes, on all accounts, I would clarify that the flood mitigation efforts is one topic, and we have an MOU with them to complete that. With the brownfield funds, it doesn't matter really who applies. The county is the overarching entity that received it and has submitted the form that on behalf of our county, they are the entity that would oversee the applications. So I don't think that this harms our chances of getting state funds. I think it actually shows collaboration between the two governments and a vested interest by both the county, because they're the ones responsible for the benching project, and then the city with long-term ownership.
Mr. Russell?
When would we execute the transfer of property? Would it be post benching and would it be after the benching project is done?
Correct. I think 3 or 4 times in the document it says post benching. That was very intentional when I negotiated it with them.
And so that would be, and so as part of the benching project and what I gathered from the meeting today, that the benching project is going to work with, is going to be, as part of that process, is going to be doing the environmental work, getting the property to a commercial high child exposure standard, which says that 2 feet of clean fill dirt. I mean, that was the part of the discussion. I mean, I thought tonight's meeting was fantastic. It answered a ton of my questions, but we don't execute this until after that project is done and we're satisfied that the condition of that land is suitable for us going forward.
Correct.
Mr. Stashak?
I don't know if this is true or not, but I believe one of the 3 commissioners told me that this resolution was rescinded, and I could be wrong. Did anybody check for the status of this resolution prior to discussing lifting it off the table in your meetings?
I have not been notified by the commissioners that any such action was taken, nor has it been any of their reports to mine. So if you have information to that end, I hope you would have shared that with us prior to tonight's meeting.
Mr. Stashak?
I guess I would say 2 things. One, I would hope you have enough dialogue with the commissions that's proper and right, that you would know. And 2, I don't share with anybody in this room my regular conversations with everybody that I talk to as an elected official, because I would have thought you guys would have been informed, and I think this is moot. This piece of legislation is a moot piece of legislation until the benching's done, until you know how you're going to do it. So do what you want to do, but I would think you would have done your due diligence and determined whether the resolution's still in place, whether it's prudent to do, and whether your consultant, despite Mr. Baumann's expertise, whether your consultant would advise you to do it prior to applying for the funds you're going to get. But again, I am not council, and I am not the mayor. I am just your auditor and your fiscal officer.
Hearing no other comments or questions, all those in favor of the ordinance say aye if your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
Mr. Ballman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Nay.
Mr. Greeno?
Nay.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Nay.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough?
Aye.
3 nays, 6 in favor.
7-3, under a majority.
No, 6-3. We're missing.
Oh, 6-3.
Mr. Lopes.
The ordinance is not adopted.
Would be, wouldn't it?
6, oh, I'm sorry, no. I'm sorry, the yeas and nays are what? 6 to 3. I'm sorry, it is adopted. But not by okay. Ms. Frisch, sorry, we're still on old business. Ms. Frishy.
I'm waiting for new business.
We do have.
Okay, there is an ordinance 2023-105, the Walnut Street rezoning. Mr. Russell.
Move that ordinance, thank you, John, 2023-105, the 315 Walnut Street rezone be lifted from the table.
Second, Mr. Greeno. All those in favor of lifting the ordinance from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. That is lifted from the table. Okay, third reading. We only have two.
Ordinance, ordinance 2023-105.
Mr. Slough.
Move for adoption of ordinance number 2023-105.
Second, Mr. Baumann. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the ordinance say aye after your name is called. Those opposed, nay.
Sorry, Mr. Bowman?
Aye.
Ms. Frishy?
Aye.
Mr. Greeno?
Aye.
Mr. Hellman?
Aye.
Mr. Niemeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Slough? And Ms. Warnicki?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted.
Why did you skip that before?
Okay, any other old business? New business? Ms. Frishy.
Since we're tying up the end of the year, and there's still a couple West Park folks here, there's been a lot of discussion brought to my attention, and I feel it's important that we get it on the record and have Don, the law director, hash it out. I'm sure you remember years ago when I was on council, and so was Ann Spence, and she ended up working for the courts. That was not allowable to be an employee and also be on council, and she had to choose her position. A councilman of the Bauman seems to be in that same boat, and he is serving on council while he is also serving for Bob Latta's office. And there's been question about the Hatch Act, and I know some of the folks have been having questions with the state, but I think out of responsibility, I should be bringing that up publicly so we can get a legal opinion if he should be serving legally as a council person when he is a federal employee, similar to Ann Spence's situation. So if you can get that information so we can get that back to the folks in West Park, I would appreciate that for the first of the year.
Mr. Baumann.
Yes, I can serve both. I got the clearance from the House Committee on Ethics prior to my running for council in 2021. So yes, Ms. Frishy, yes.
Councilwoman Frishy. And I asked
Ms. Frishy.
I asked for a legal opinion from the law director because we treated a different member of council had to make a choice in order to stay on council as an elected official and city employee. And I know we've also had other candidates for council that have worked for the state that were not able to. So I would ask, and if you have some kind of legal information, provide that to Don so he can provide that out as a public document.
Mr. Baumann.
There's no need.
Are you the law director?
I have approval. There's
So
no
my
need.
question was to the law director, not to you, and I think would be in your best interest is to sit there, and if you do have information, send it on over. Thank you.
I will never take advice from Ward 1.
Cute.
That's enough. Mayor. Wait, we're still under new business. Any other new business? I have one piece of business on the lighter side. Bob Zellers died. I don't know if anybody remembers Bob Zellers. He was a councilman years ago, served our community with distinguish, being a Korean veteran, just a great guy. Anything you would ever know about him would be his service to our community, our state, and our nation. And I'd just like to mention the fact that he just recently passed away and deserves some recognition.
It can go
Mayor?
under either.
Okay.
All right, so it has been a very long meeting, so I apologize, but I wanted to share an email that I received recently. My name is Todd Bickley, and I work for Life Connection of Ohio. We help recover and facilitate organ donation in Northwest and Central Ohio, West Central Ohio. Yesterday, we had an and this was a couple days ago, an organ recovery case at Blanchard Valley Hospital in which we had 2 small jet planes coming to Findlay after hours, one with a heart transplant team from another state and the other to transport a liver back to a transplant center in another state. This was my first ever dealings with your airport. I called and discovered the airport had closed at 6 p.m., but listened to the call tree and learned that I could be patched through for after-hours service, so I did so. Amanda answered the phone and I introduced myself, stated who I represented, and what my needs were. Amanda did not say, "Sure, we can help you out." She said, "We would be honored to help you." Her choice of words completely warmed my heart. My stepfather's actually a liver transplant patient, so this was really special. It takes an absolute village to make organ transplantation happen. It involves those of us that do it every day, and it involves those that never even expected that would be involved in helping facilitate giving the gift of life. Sometimes, when in the course of my work, I reach out to those people in need of something from them. They almost seemed put out or bothered by my requests. Not Amanda. She sensed the magnitude of what she was being asked of her and absolutely embraced it. In my last conversation with her yesterday, I told her how much her initial statement impacted me. Hearing her words recharged my batteries during what was a crazy day and helped me remind me of how truly blessed I am to get to do the work every day. I could not let Amanda's comment, "Great work," go unnoticed. Kudos to the City of Findlay team, and certainly kudos to Amanda McGee for realizing that organ donation is so much bigger than any one of us. Without any hesitation, she wanted to help in any way she could. Please give her my regards and thank her once again from me. So I share that not just to give great kudos to Amanda, but to share, again, our City of Findlay team members do work every single day that many times goes unnoticed, whether it's a police officer working with someone helping turn a bad situation around, or our firefighters responding, or a distribution worker going out and helping someone find a leak and be able to fix it, or Amanda with the airport, or the whole team. When I responded to him, I said, thank you for sharing. It really was touching to me. But I had no doubt that if he had had any other situation with any of our other department heads or our team members, that he would have had a very, very similar experience. And I just want to give a whole shout out to our team who puts up with a lot of things, with frustration and bad press and all the other things, but are here to really serve their community and do it with a smile on their face because they're honored to do it.
Thank you for sharing.
One more comment for me. Mr. Slough, you and your wife are good friends. Your children are good friends of my children, and hopefully someday your grandchildren will be good friends of my grandchildren, including your mom and dad, who were friends of mine. I know we're going to do a resolution and invite you back, but I'd like to thank you for your service. Mr. Stashak.
Jim, I think I've served with you more years here than anybody in the room, and the whole community needs to. And I appreciate your friendship, your loyalty to the community, your care and concern. I have fond memories of a couple lunches we had down at Applebee's, talking about different things, and all along all the different things we've done. Thank you for all of that, and I wish you well.
Other new business. Yes, Mr. Slough?
I have been on council for, I want to say, close to 40 years, and it has been an experience that I never thought I would experience. And I still remember to this day coming in and my first day as a 4th Ward City Councilman, how excited I was, how honored I was to have been promoted or elected to this particular position. And for whatever reason, I've stayed with this group. And it's when I was growing up, I thought Findlay was about the squarest place in the world you could live, and I ended up going to school in New York. But I came back to Findlay, and it's been a unique experience to number one, to have come back, but number two, to have raised a family and seen your grandchildren grow and come to Findlay, and it's been phenomenal. And I've got to say that I've not been to a lot of other council meetings from other cities, but this group is one of the finest that I've had the privilege to work with, starting from square one to today. And Mayor, you run a good ship here, and you've got a good staff. And what I like most about you is the fact that you work together as a team and not from the top down. So my congratulations to all, and under your tutelage and the esteemed Mr. Rasmussen's direction, things will go in the right direction. And thank you for the honor and the privilege of working here.
Mr. Slough, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would make a motion, we adjourn.
Second, Mr. Palmer. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. We are adjourned.